Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. Ben Brackett here, your Soccer Talk co-host with my good pal Blake Siebes on the Zoom tonight. What's up?
Hey Ben, it's been a long time since we've done the Zoom, but back off the training ground as the mates say, and it's been a chilly, cold one tonight, but getting the spring season started.
It is, yeah, and it's actually pretty good timing, all things considered, because we are chatting tonight with a very exclusive interview, one of our most exclusive, and one that we wouldn't have been able to get without you, Siebes. It's one near and dear to your heart. Why don't you go ahead and crack that one open for us?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool one for us, I think. Give him a little bit of a hard time because we didn't have we worked on this for quite a while, which may have been like the most time we spent ever lining something up. So that's a good thing for him.
I was trying to think, like, while you said that, if I could come up with another one, but I don't think I can. So let's just go ahead and run with that and say, Mr. Flynn,
those that don't know, Pat Flynn, new Drake men's soccer coach, the boss of the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and honestly, great interview, really insightful and super generous with his time. We enjoyed it to the point where the interview's over, and I think we could have chatted for a bit longer. That being said, let's get to it. Please enjoy our chat with the new top Bulldog in the Des Moines area, Pat Flynn.
All right, Pat Flynn, welcome to the pod. Excited to have you. I'm assuming that nobody gave you the heads up to listen to some episodes beforehand, but we have a traditional first question that I will leave for Mr. Siebers over there.
Yeah, so I guess 1A would be, have you listened to our pod yet? Any of them?
Not yet.
Okay, so you came prepared. That's good. So the first question of every podcast we have is this the first pod you've ever been on?
No.
Okay, can you name the other one or ones? Everybody has the same response. Like we usually give a shout out, but like nobody can ever remember.
It's by a guy named Herv Dees, soccer coach that I met in Chicago. He moved to Orlando, works with Orlando City. It's called the VAR booth, I believe.
Okay. Well, we'll chirp that somehow and tell people to check that episode out.
A little more creative than our silly name.
Yeah. We didn't really put that one up on the whiteboard for very long. So, I mean, generally, obviously everybody knows that you're the new Drake men's coach, and I would imagine most people are pretty excited about that. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like your soccer journey? A lot of times that starts when you're like 4 and you started playing in the Y League or whatever, but be curious where it all began.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm Pat Flynn. I'm 36. Okay. So my soccer story, I grew up in Marietta, Georgia, suburb of Atlanta. I was a big baseball player. I was probably actually more into baseball prior to soccer. Got to a certain point in my life where I just tried to simplify the decision between soccer and baseball to like, which of the two do I like to play more? I liked actually playing a soccer game more than I liked playing a baseball game. So I went all in on soccer when I went into high school. I was pretty good, but I wasn't like Clemson type good. And in the Southeast, there's
it's like ACC or bust, right?
Yeah, slim pickings. But I really loved playing. I knew I wanted to play in college, so I had a very open mind when it came to figuring out where I was going to go to school. I was also self-aware, so I knew I wasn't on the kind of the Clemson tier. Ended up looking at a handful of schools that are probably more similar to Drake than they are different. Went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Had a great experience.
Hold on. Sorry.
Sorry.
Where else did you look at?
Yeah, that's always
we're always curious,
especially because we were at that same era. So like,
yeah. I want to know, like, if you like Georgia ODP was probably massive. So, like, did you like?
Yeah, so this was like pre-academy.
Yep.
I was on 85, so ODP was kind of where it was at.
We were 84s or R.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay. So we're still at 84.
Yeah, that has not changed.
I'm younger.
Yeah. Good point.
Where did I look? So it had 3 Division I options. Georgia State, which at the time was like almost exclusively a commuter school. So I just didn't really want to go there. Georgia Southern didn't really fit what I was looking for academically, and Mercer. So those are the only 3 options there. So I ended up like kind of my final choices were Duquesne, Dayton, St. Bonaventure. And then I actually did seriously consider Babson.
Oh, nice. In Boston?
3 school in Boston.
Yeah.
Picked Duquesne, just kind of.
Who's the coach at Babson again? He was like
same guy that's there.
Yeah,
now,
but he's like,
I actually talked to
he's
him.
great.
He runs the All-America teams for Division III. We had 2 guys that got screwed this year when I was at Chicago. And so I sent this angry email and he got right back to me. And then we ended up having like a good phone conversation.
He's like, remember when I recruited you?
Yeah. No, I remember. There's no way he remembered. So yeah, went to Duquesne, played for 4 years, was by no means like the greatest college soccer player. Didn't play a second, was a substitute, started, was a captain. So I feel like I can
that's a real thing though, because a lot of kids these days, they go for like a year or 2 and they go, nah, this isn't working.
Definitely.
But like you just worked it out and you grounded it out. I like that.
And can like reflect on all different being like any part of the team. But just ultimately loved the experience. My best friends were guys that I played with in college. Thought pretty seriously about getting into coaching when I graduated, but like just felt internal, external pressure to get a real job. It's private school. My dad had a real job, worked for Coca-Cola forever. So like I said, I thought really hard about coaching, but decided to get a normal job. Moved to Colorado, which is
What'd you
cool.
study?
Marketing, so nothing very like
it's good for recruiting.
Yeah. I was a business major. I prefer to say that. Worked in Colorado, moved to Orlando with that job, and started to recognize that like I guess I would say there are when it comes to working, like I've broken it down into 2 categories: people that can work all week and then just pursue happiness on the weekend. And I just wasn't like that. I hated my job. I wasn't excited. I wasn't passionate about it. Didn't think I would ever be good at it. And so when we all got laid off from our jobs in 2009, I was like, great, chance to go coach soccer. Moved to Birmingham, started coaching youth club soccer for a guy that I grew up playing for.
Just out of the blue. So you just were like, hey, let's coach, no licensing. Just or have you done that yet?
I didn't want to move home. And so it was kind of like splitting the difference. If I go and coach club soccer, I can look for a new job and live in an apartment as opposed to going home and doing the same. Did not have a license. And yeah, I actually had to get my license like right before the first season that I coached, and went to Bloomsburg College, somewhere in like Eastern Pennsylvania, for just the bottom,
like your D license or
below that.
Really?
I think it's like the
oh, that was before you could
it's like the NSCAA, so the less kind of like respected
Yeah.
side, but whatever, it was enough. So I went and did that, started coaching, and yeah, pretty shortly after like realized how much more I love that than what I was doing prior to this, and just kind of thought, well, if there's some people that are making a living out of this, then why not me? That was kind of how I got into it. Then multiple years of full-time club soccer, and knew in the back of my mind I'd love to get back into the college game. Guy that was a graduate assistant at Duquesne when I was there, eventually became the head coach at the University of Chicago. And so that was kind of what brought me up to Chicago. My wife was excited about moving out of Alabama. She had done her undergrad in Alabama, she was tapped out on Alabama.
Hey, south to north, like that's an interesting, as a southerner, to then end up here. I mean, not to take us off on a tangent, but what's that like? You have no accent, by the way.
No, my parents were both like Midwestern, went to Dayton.
So that didn't so that didn't play into your like thought of going to Dayton?
It was kind of like maybe what tipped me off on it, but like I don't know if you've been to Pittsburgh, but you go through these tunnels, the whole city opens
sweet, right?
up. It's real cool. And I grew up in the burbs, and it just was like the opposite of what I was used to. Yeah, so that's why I don't have an accent though. Parents.
Does she Southern drawl?
Nah, her father. Actually,
I don't know if she's a Southern girl, is what that sounded like.
No, she went to Alabama. We both went to the same high school actually in Atlanta, but have like Midwestern families.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you miss Atlanta?
No, I grew up in the suburbs, like I miss the South. I miss the weather. I have more of an appreciation for the South now than I did growing up. But I don't like identify with, like, my parents are Midwestern. We lived in the burbs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just don't feel like I'm a true Southerner.
Fair enough.
So you end up at University of Chicago as an assistant.
Yes.
And how old were you then?
This was right after we got married, 28.
Test. There's a big test.
28. Yeah. That's how I remember when I got married. It's always the first fall that I coached at U Chicago.
That's
Smart man.
So I guess something that just kind of stuck out to me is you mentioned a few times like your interest in the city. You mentioned this also like before we started recording. So I mean, I think a good segue, unless we want to get like caught up in your coaching journey, but now coming to Des Moines, like what kinds of things were attracting you to a place like this? Because I think a lot of people might look at Des Moines and go like, that's not a city. But if you've been here and you've poked around a little bit, to me, like that's one of your biggest recruiting tools. If you want kids to go to Drake, it's like, hey guys, we've got a city atmosphere, but it's affordable. It's not that big. It's like a good transition because not a lot of kids at that age have lived in a city before, right? Like you've been in the suburbs most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to a defensive center mid from Norway about an hour and a half ago, and yeah, when I got to like location, I hadn't really actually thought through how I'd sell it to a guy like that, but just being honest with him, I feel like it is a draw for a college kid because you're not just in a little college town where after 2-3 years you've kind of figured it out, like you're actually in a real city. But it's not so expensive that you're just kind of like a fringe participant in what the city has to offer. Plus it's safe. So your parents be more supportive of maybe moving there than some other cities that have different reputations. But for me personally, or for our family, like there's two sides to it. Professionally, I was most excited about, I just think there's a lot of potential that hasn't been necessarily tapped into in the program, or there's layers that can be added to the team. And then on the personal side of things, my wife and I got married, moved to Chicago. We've been there for almost 8 years now, like loved our experience in the city. But we now have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So we were kind of, had we stayed in Chicago, we were probably ready to find more space somewhere in the city or outside of the city. So we were kind of already thinking about a move. And then when this kind of developed, it was like, this kind of checks every box, and we like are really fired up about Des Moines.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, like, do the kids even go to Peggy's in West End anymore? Or are they all going downtown?
I don't know.
Like
that was actually, it's funny you say that because at Brown, there was like, you've been, right? Thayer Street was like the place to be. It'd be like going to Peggy's or going to wherever. But we went back just recently and everybody, they go downtown because you can hop an Uber or Lyft or whatever. And it's like, so downtown Providence is hopping, downtown Des Moines hopping. I just wonder what that does to campus. I guess you get both, right?
I suppose if you want like to hang out at the bar and be underage, you can go to Peggy's. If you're of age, you go downtown because you don't have to worry about it. No, that's just
Peggy's a bar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You'll learn.
Yeah. No, I've learned through pints. I think that's the place to be
if you're 20.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not going to say the last time I went there. Well, yeah. So you'll get a little taste of relays here in a few few weeks. So that'll be exciting. But maybe just talk a little bit about like you've got a big job on your hands. I mean, I don't know. When was the last time Drake had a winning season, Blake?
It's been a while. So yeah, like what attracted you to the job? You got into it a little bit, but I'm sure you didn't understand everything. Maybe as quote an outsider. You've been in Loyola, so I don't know. Talk about that.
I think diplomatically, I'd say there's no such thing as a job that you know everything about until you really get in there. But what I did know about Drake, or the potential, or why I thought it was a good opportunity, probably had more to do with my experience when I was at Loyola as an assistant. So we're in the same comp. I was at Loyola Chicago for 2 years as an assistant, same league as Drake. And the two schools are very similar, like almost the same cost, similar in size, similar in academic reputation. And just based on my experience at Loyola, and being a part of pretty good mid-major program, I just felt like, why not Drake? Honestly, if you like the best players that we recruited when I was at Loyola, I felt like would have been in play at Drake. A guy that's being legitimately looked at by top Big Ten, top ACC schools. He's not going to go to Loyola anyway. So I feel like it's just a very similar process in recruiting. Identify the best of those out there that aren't on that type of level of exposure, and then combine academic aid with soccer money, sell the academic reputation of the school, sell the value that you can provide at a much lower price point when you combine those two things. And if you can recruit, then you can be successful.
So when we talk and we realize, like you talked earlier about like being a realist and knowing you're not at that quote top ACC echelon level. So Iowa players, I mean, no matter what anybody wants to say, if you're not a little dose of reality, like we're not producing as a state the top players that are playing in the MLS Next DA, no matter what anybody tells you guys, girls both, like, sorry. But so like, what is, I mean, I'm curious, like, what is the type of player that you want to recruit? And like, what's your quote style of play? If that is even like, I hate that.
Hopefully your style is just to win.
That's what I mean. Right? Like, yeah, like I hate that. Like, oh, we play this way. It's like, well, you kind of have to adapt to the team and the players you have.
Yeah.
So he's telling you how to not answer the question, apparently.
No, I'm adamant about athleticism, right? Like I think in American soccer culture, like it got to the point where that was almost like a bad word, you know, like you're not a real soccer purist if you value athleticism, which like it's just not true. You know, watch Champions League, as it's such an athletic sport, giant field, you know, like, so yeah, finding like truly functional athletes I think is very important in recruiting. Not like traditional track athletes, so they sometimes don't look like athletes. Maybe that's where kind of some of the misunderstanding is of,
Well, you don't necessarily need a bunch of 6-footers.
no, like functional athleticism. So like, how do they start? How do they stop? Like, what do they have to do at their position? And are they above average athletically in terms of those functions? And I think when you start to think about it in that way, you can actually start to like see a lot of value in a guy on a team from Cedar Rapids who moves like you want an outside back to move like. He has pretty good feet, but maybe his development is more on just kind of the understanding side of things, because yeah, he's grown up in Cedar Rapids and his team maybe relies more on him to make individual plays where,
well, maybe he's a goal scorer on that team.
Yeah, or whatever, just the guy,
but he's an outside back for you.
Yeah, right. But yeah, just kind of like being able to separate coachable and non-coachable attributes, and having a belief in yourself that if we find guys that have a lot of non-coachable attributes, then we can kind of develop things when they get to the team.
So what are some of those, like if there's kids and families listening, what are some of those coachable attributes you speak of, like kind of recommendations for kids?
Yeah, like how to receive the ball. Like it's a very simple thing. It's just like how to get your hips organized.
It's like technical corrections.
Yes, but there is maybe a difference in like if a kid has a poor touch and no balance, like we can't maybe fix his technique.
It's too late.
But if he's just always got square body shape and he's always insisting on receiving the ball with his preferred foot, like there's like some speed of play improvements that could easily be made if you just get the kids hips organized and playing with his head up and putting him in an environment where he has to make faster decisions on a daily basis. Whereas I think athleticism and whether you're a competitor or not would be more of like non-coachable things that I gotta find in recruiting.
It's just funny to think about. I think it's interesting, like the idea of getting to recruit, because I guess whenever Blake and I have coached, you know, like it's just like here are your kids and you got to figure it out. So like how do you find, I mean, so when you're recruiting players, it's easy to me.
Are you recruiting it? Sorry, Ben, real quick. Are you recruiting a different player than you were at Chicago?
Different student. Chicago is just,
yeah,
the whole search was driven by academics. Like
my brother went on a visit there when he was in high school because he's smart. And he went, and it was like Friday night. He was like, kind of like, I want to go out. Like, let's see what this is all about. And they were like, oh, we got to study tonight. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
but that's like Chicago, so if in early discussions with a kid, maybe they're super intelligent, but they just weren't drawn to that type of academic environment, like it would have been inefficient to continue pursuing them. So ultimately we do need a higher level here. Like the team needs to be better than Chicago if we're going to find the success we want to have. But in terms of like my process and trying to figure out if they're a great fit and stuff, I don't think that's much different. It's just a different school, so it's going to attract different people.
So how do you do that? Like, it's pretty easy to pick out somebody that can, I mean, not easy, not everybody can do it, but it's pretty objective to find an athlete. Finding a kid that's coachable and that's going to do something like play for 4 years and maybe not play as a freshman, be a sub as a sophomore, finally work their way in through the team as a junior, and then be a leader as a senior. Like, how are you finding those players? Because to me, that seems like the big trick.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest part, is like trying to learn a kid's personality in a relatively short amount of time, 3 months, 6 months, even if you recruit a kid for a year, like it's still, and it's like a job interview. So no one's going to completely open up as to, who they are. So I think you just have to have like a pretty good ability to have discussions with 18-year-old young men and be comfortable and confident, like having a real transparent dialogue throughout the recruiting process. So you avoid kind of like constant corporate speak, kind of like cliche based surface level. Like I want to get to know these guys, and I want them to get to know me as well. And then like, yeah, you just have to reach out to people that are in these kids' lives. You have to try to watch them play when they don't know you're watching them play. So video relative to when we were all these kids' games are filmed. So I think if you do your due diligence in terms of developing a real relationship with the kid, getting to know some people around that person and asking them direct questions about the kid's personality, and then observe them enough, especially a few times when they don't know you're observing them, like you should get it right more often than you get it wrong.
Yeah. You talk about that and trying to find those players. Like, I had a really good question here and I totally lost it. This happened yesterday too, but to Marcus, not me, thank God. No, I guess
so you're going to fill it in with the terrible question.
No, I know. Why don't you just ask your question?
Okay. So you've been on the job now 2 months, 3 months?
Not quite.
Okay. 5 weeks.
5-6 weeks.
Okay.
January 20th.
Okay. So you haven't been around a long time, but what are some of the challenges you have seen being in Des Moines at Drake that are going to maybe make it more challenging or difficult than
opportunities? Can we? Is that
let's call them
up. Oh yeah. Okay. There you go. There you go.
Stupid. All right. So the first was like it's freezing in Des Moines, right? So it's cold in Chicago, obviously. It's even colder here. Drake has a little field house that you can do some work in, but I think if we're going to like maximize development in the winter, facilities are like the first thing. But there's some brand new stuff in Des Moines, and it's an opportunity. We're going to the Westplex. We go to the Recplex, brand new facility. It's amazing. So it's not a real limitation, but it's just something you kind of got to work through and figure out.
Do the guys go on the bus to that, the vans, or do they just like they got to
carpool?
Got it.
Yeah.
What about like you got to fix that locker room down there? That thing is. We ran down there this past fall.
You're right. We
went
did
to one of the women's games, and we're like, "Oh, let's go check this out."
Yeah, see, I don't know. I guess I have a low bar, like coming out of D3, where our locker room, like, there's not one point in it where you can kind of see more than half the team, which is actually not that much different than Drake's, but it's clean.
Do you kind of like that though? Like, what was the Duquesne locker room like? Because the Brown locker room was trash.
Nothing.
like it was folding
like,
chairs.
Like kind of what I'm used to.
Yeah,
I do think there's value in a locker room. But we gotta. I think it was the first question. Was we were trying to figure out like when the last winning season.
I was just saying you got to win to have a nice locker room, right?
Our current priority is developing the locker room. Like I think we've been missing.
What about temperature gauges for the showers?
I haven't showered there yet.
That was always one we were laughing about the other day.
Oh, that's great. Talk about like, what's a typical Pat Flynn training session look like? everybody's got a different method. Like I know a lot of times when Sean was coaching, like he used to like to go sit up in the stands or sit on the bleachers and watch while his assistant would coach. There were days like that Mike Noonan did that to me, where he'd go, just go sit up there with a freaking microphone or megaphone or whatever. Or are you like an on the field guy? Like what's it look like?
I learned how to coach in club soccer, so that's definitely my background. Was in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd coached 3 or 4 club teams at a time, different ages, some of them boys teams, some of them girls teams, some of them competitive, some of them not. So I fell in love with coaching, running training sessions. So I'm definitely like very engaged in that part of the job. And I want it to be a training session that like players enjoy.
It's like one that you'd want to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I was probably more inspired to get into coaching by coaches that I couldn't stand and didn't enjoy, and just would be standing there like, I can do this better. There's a better way. Why are we doing it this way? So I always try and keep that in mind. Like keep things flowing.
Stoppages are no fun.
Nah, man. Like if the ball goes out of bounds, we'll talk at that point. We're going to do this for 3 minutes while you're resting. I'll make a point. Yeah. So I'm like very committed to terminology. I would say it's something that I've really started to, like, I felt like I almost got on a plateau as a coach a couple of years ago, where it's like, whoa, it's easy to improve when you start something, or you're learning every day. You're not good at any element of the job. And then when I started to like embrace terminology and use consistent language, I just feel less anxiety at training. I'm just way more cleaner with how I articulate things. I'm more focused on what we want to work on that day, because I know what I want to be coming out of my mouth.
So what, like, give me some examples of terminology.
Well, you said hips, right? So you could describe like how to receive the ball 1,000 different ways. I try to be specific. Hips, so it should get to a point if you're working with like a central player and they have a mistake because they received the ball inefficiently. Like I'd like us to get to that level of understanding that you literally can just say like hips and there's like common understanding there. Or we worked on playing into the striker this morning at training. Again, like playing into the target, holding it up. There's a million different ways you could describe it. We call it support underneath, so there's elements of like, when do you play to a guy back to goal? What's your timing of how to support underneath? What's the angle? But if we consistently refer to it as support underneath instead of hold up play or playing to the target, I just think it expedites like just kind of the understanding of the entire group.
It's like a team culture thing, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, like you guys all speak the same language at a certain point.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
like,
Everybody's coming from different backgrounds, and I'm like open-minded about it. If someone challenged, I'm not tied to support underneath.
No dictator here.
Hey, give me a better term. I'm happy to. It's like a closet, right? So if like at the end of a season, I feel like I'm not actually using this term, then like it's got to go. Or if I think there's a better way to describe something, replace that term with like, but I'd like to have it pretty clean to the point where when I go and look at like my list of terms, it pretty much like covers everything that I try and teach at training.
So that's like I'm trying to think of how to say this correctly. Like it becomes like a self-assured, like now you, and I think this is interesting because you've come in as the head coach and you didn't bring any staff with you. You've inherited some staff. But you have to come in. It's not like you're maybe going and sitting in the office with your new assistant and saying, hey, so what do you think about these things that I've been working on? Like you kind of have to go in and be like, this is the way that I am going to do it. It must be kind of like give you some clarity, or like, I don't know. To me,
that college football where they bring in their whole 20 assistants, like, and they've worked with them forever.
Right.
It breeds confidence, but I think it actually starts because I have that perspective. Like I think it's on me to sell the group on my ideas and get them bought into them, as opposed to like, I'm not good at standing up there and just like authoritarian kind of like, like, so I got to get if you think about it in that order, like it's on me to get buy-in. It's not on you to buy into me. then yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on yourself to like figure out like what's the best way to kind of make everyone believe this is the way to go.
How's the good cop, bad cop deal with?
So yeah, which are you? Yeah,
Is that still even like? Is that even able to be around much anymore?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of bad cops.
Definitely. Yeah, I try to like be myself and organic, you know, or true to myself. So sometimes I'm good cop and sometimes I'm bad cop, and sometimes Kyle's good cop and sometimes he's bad cop. Okay. I try to be honest cop.
Sometimes I was gonna say sometimes you're neutral cop.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just following the rules cop. That's coaching kids that age. I mean, maybe let's just like quick segue on that or quick transition. Like, okay, so you've got how many kids on the squad right now? Young men?
23.
23. We know, like we've talked about this with just like with high school and college, like the transfer portal is like shockingly active. Like when we were growing up, when we were growing up, like you didn't transfer. Like, and if you did, it was because something happened or like you were injured or whatever, maybe something was not going well at home or whatever, right? How does that like, so now you've inherited a team, brand new, you haven't recruited a single one of those kids. How do you like, you say now you're earning trust, but then you're also like they know you're evaluating them pretty heavily, right?
Yeah. I just try to be honest, you know, I just try to be honest, try to stay consistent kind of with the standard.
So how many out of 23 are up to the standard? I mean, like you know, most, some.
Okay, so I'll just stick with.
You said honest.
Heart. Like I think we have 5 guys that have started a Division I soccer game. You know,
really?
Yeah.
Well, that's so. When we talked to Kyle, we were trying to get him to like tell us like who's good or not good, and he said there were like 4 or 5 guys that had played, and outside of that, that was it.
Yeah, we have 2
or like
returning starters, you could say, from last year's team. We had a guy transferred in from Marquette that has pretty good experience to play up front. So yeah, we're crazy inexperienced.
So how does that work then?
Are you young too, or sorry, Blake? But
go ahead. We are weird in that way. Like I think the average age of the team is probably like actually kind of normal, but we have a large group of young players that are inexperienced, and then we have a small core of like grad school guys that are like crazy experienced, you know. So it can work. Like I think we can be successful this fall with this group plus what we add to it. We just got a ways to go.
So how's that recruiting work then? Because you're one, way late in the game. 2, like you're not really, I'm assuming for the most part, you're not, the kids that you had talked to at Chicago are probably not the same ones that are.
No, you're not like taking somebody from your recruiting class to Chicago and going like, hey, let's come to Drake.
What I mean, is that something you're like, oh,
it's
going to be a challenge?
Are you recruiting for 2023?
22 right now.
Okay, you still okay.
Most schools are on to 23. Yep. You know, they've spent all their scholarship money. Their roster is full for the fall. Drake had a lot of seniors, grad students in this past fall, then a coaching transition. So we're kind of in a much different position than a lot of teams that are on like a more traditional cycle. There's still players out there though. I mean, it's like Division I soccer is very international. Those guys' timelines they have nothing to do with like a traditional American timeline. They're basically playing for pro academies, and then when they get cut loose, that's when they try and figure out what's next. And for some of them, it can happen much later in high school. COVID has made recruiting weird, just like everything else, in that everyone that was in the NCAA was given an extra year of eligibility. So then a lot of rosters didn't have the normal turnover. So they bring in smaller recruiting classes. So there are still like better high school seniors out there, maybe than in a traditional year. And then to your point about the transfer portal,
it's crazy.
It's got like, I don't know the exact number, but well over 1,000 names
right now.
it.
There's just, if you log in today, there's over 1,000.
So is that like a place you go to look for players? You just log in and say like, anybody got some credit here? Like what's it look like?
Yes, that's basically functions like
it's like the white pages,
or
like, yellow pages,
fantasy waiver wire. But yeah, you still from that point on, if you're doing it the right way, like you're still gonna start to connect and not just a straight transactional recruiting process. So yeah, we're fully focused on the fall, trying to add some guys.
So I know you have one Iowan on your roster, at least in case and crawl, right?
Three.
I was just
hopefully
gonna
you
say
got
at
more
least
than that.
one. And I was just gonna say, like, who are your other, like, this has nothing to do with like anything other than who are your Iowans?
There's forward Jaffer Murphy, Jaffer,
Eastern Iowa.
Okay.
Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. We saw him play at the state tournament like briefly, and he was
Like
a handful.
dominant high
He's a
school, I would
handful. Yeah,
imagine.
he's a
Yeah,
handful.
he's got
He was
a
a
lot.
man.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So is he a sophomore?
He's in his second year. It's also weird because he
Right.
played like spring COVID, then fall. So he's in his second year of actual eligibility.
Sure.
Great kid, a lot of potential. Just needs to like grow into it a little bit. Then we have a defender, Anders Bergstrom.
Oh, he from Cedar Rapids, but he was at it's Tucker's cousin, Tucker Sindlinger's cousin. Well, guy our age, played at Creighton. Is his cousin from
Nice.
Cedar Rapids.
Cool. Then a goalkeeper.
And his brother played at like somewhere good, right? No, okay. You might not know that
Drake?
yet. No.
So what's your definition
like
of
he
good
played
then?
at like Ohio State or something like that. His older brother, Bergstrom's. I don't know. Okay, so you got three.
Goalkeeper
Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin
Yeah.
Key. Gotcha. Okay, so you got four. Very good. Does that, like, knowing that Iowans are generally recruited less, like as on the whole, because just of all the, I don't know, we're a flyover state, right? Like there's 1,000 reasons. It's something like, is that something that you go, well, I want to make sure I've got like the best Iowans come here. Like you are the only D1 game in town. To me, like, I think that would be a great strategy.
Yeah. So I coached club in Birmingham, Alabama. UAB was the only men's soccer Division I program there. And so I think there's a lot of similarities there. Like typically people think Alabama's not good at soccer. And yet in terms of producing like full teams of talent, that would be accurate. But out of Alabama over the last like 5 years, Chris Richards, who plays in the Bundesliga,
Yeah, he's okay.
Brandon Cervania was signed homegrown from FC Dallas. JJ Williams went to Kentucky, scored like 23 goals in a year. I know I'm missing some names, but anyways, I don't, it's very, you don't know if there's going to be a guy playing in the Bundesliga from Iowa in 5 years, but like,
Well, probably not.
I don't need to recruit teams. I need to find individuals that can be a fit. And so, yeah, ultimately my goal with recruiting Iowa would just be to make sure that if there's a kid that can potentially be a good Division I soccer player, like we're at least in the mix. And
Yeah, you don't want them just like not even thinking about.
Yeah,
Drake,
because
right?
then there's like, ultimately, if you're just paying attention to the local market, make sure you're in the mix, make sure you pay attention, and whether you decide to go a different direction or a recruit decides to go somewhere else, if you're not paying attention to the local guys, then eventually someone comes across that is a great fit for Drake. And there's just no history of recruiting local players. Nobody that he knows plays for the team, and you got no chance. So
yeah, I think it's also, and I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, like is something that I think I missed out on a little bit. It's just like the idea of like playing from your hometown or playing in front of your family. And like, I think that's something that, like, I mean, you can use that all day long to keep Iowa kids in their state.
Or to the transfer, if the best player out of Iowa goes to Wake Forest, doesn't
Sure.
play his first year, and you actually got to know the kid pretty well while you're recruiting him, the odds of then
First
getting
call
them
is
to
you,
hear
right?
Out. Yeah. So
Who was that kid from Eastern
Oh,
Iowa that
God.
went to Wake Forest? Now that you said that, like,
Oh my God, I can't
a
remember.
while ago, but
I still, okay, this is a funny story though. We showed up to like old guys play against like some U8, it was the U18 team. That kid showed up and he juggled a tennis ball across the field and during his warm up and juggled it back. And we were like, we're in for it today. And then we proceeded to thump him because we were 5 or 10 years older. But still, we were like, oh my God. What do you
have
got,
you been
Steve?
to like I'm interested, like how is the Illinois high school soccer landscape? Because you're going to go at spring season, right? All the quote best Iowa high school boys players are going to play high school soccer this spring.
You gonna be at any games?
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, I like soccer,
Yeah.
I like just local. You got to get to know
So the atmosphere, the environment, like we love it. Cause like you don't get it at the club soccer games. You don't get it at all these ECNL, DA stuff. Like it may not be the best quality, but the atmosphere and the fight and the battle, and it just is a different, it adds something to the game, to the players.
Great segue, Steve's. You're from Loyola, Chicago. Like not you're from, but
Mhm.
like you coached there. You came to Des Moines at least once and played at Cownie, right?
No, it was always rained out when we came out here. We played at some high school.
And so you play at the at Valley Stadium,
but I have
Tiger
been out to
Stadium.
County. I went out.
Sure.
My wife and I stayed in an Airbnb last, and it was kind of out that way. So
Sure.
we drove out there. It's all right.
Yeah, well, no, and all I was going to is like the last Drake game I went to was actually it was the Drake Loyola game. We went with Tanner Kraus and sat up there in like the cold, and it was what I mean. There must have been 40 people at the game,
Mhm.
and it was a Saturday night. It wasn't nice out, but like I don't know. I mean, I've been to games, and we just went to the World Cup qualifier.
We came from the Grandview game.
Yeah.
3 fields over, and there was 300 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you like when you talk about building your program and you're finding players and doing all that kind of stuff, but then you've got this challenge too of like how do you get the community interested, like having 40 fans at a game, like come on, like we gotta do something about that.
No, I mean that's one of those things that you kind of have to start to understand how things work before you really can have real solutions. But like I've talked to Sean Holmes a good bit. I talked to Chris Hamburger.
Oh yeah,
some
lucky you.
Yeah.
he's a fellow 84.
Yeah, but like people that talk about how it wasn't always like that at Cownie. Like they used to have an atmosphere. Maybe not every game, but you do a youth soccer night, and so my goal right now is just to like try to make the team or try to make the program a little bit better every day, and ultimately that will mean popping in at high schools. There's like a high school coaches symposium that I heard about recently, and just slowly kind of integrating into the city, into the soccer community. And then ultimately, if we have a better product, like if it's one thing to get people to come to a game, if the team is then a little bit better than you maybe expect, and they play hard and they're competitive, and you might come back. So
yeah. Ultimately, if you're winning, people mysteriously find a way to get there, don't they?
Plus, if it was 30 to 40 people at a game this year, then we can get 150, and the current group will feel like we sold out.
There was 22 at one of them we went to. Like
so,
literally 22, unfortunately.
It's
like it's the reality, unfortunately.
It's true. So one thing that we've talked about a little bit with just like the Drake soccer job, you whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not yet, you've become the godfather of soccer in the state just recently.
Surprise.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is like, I'll just give you my tip would be to embrace that role and like get to know everybody. And I think people will be really excited to know that there's somebody that's interested and like here to make it better. It's a little bit of a political campaign for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've gathered that like through conversations. It's just really important to everyone that I care as much about the soccer community as I want them to care about Drake soccer. You got to meet them in the middle. It can't be a one-way relationship. So I've never had a position that like, I coached in Chicago where there's 30 college programs, and
politics are a little different there.
Right. And I coached in Alabama where, there's no such thing as soccer. So yeah, this will be exciting. Plus with what the Minutes are doing, I just hope I can do a really good job, and that a couple of years from now, people just are glad that, I got this thing going in the right direction.
What's the spring season look like? Have you guys figured that out yet?
Yeah, we have a schedule. We won't play any games till after spring break. We'll play 5 consecutive weeks. It was a bit of a challenge trying to piece that together after the new year. So we play William Penn, we play Hastings, we play Creighton, we play UNO, and Grandview.
Nice.
Oh, love
That's
it.
great.
Yeah.
So where are the last 3? I don't really care about William Penn. Sorry.
All in
Simon,
in Des Moines except for the Omaha game.
The
UNO or
Creighton's coming to Des Moines?
Creighton is, because originally it was at Creighton, but somehow they messed something up with their schedule, so they like had to come out here. So
Nice.
yeah,
So where are you playing those games?
Different venues. Some of them at Cownie. Some of them, like we're gonna play Creighton at Drake Stadium because it's a weeknight and we need lights and shower stuff like that.
Yep.
So
That'd be cool if like school's still in session at least, maybe.
School, it's all like before relays.
Okay. So are you guys
Oh,
done? Are you guys done at relays?
Yes.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those the
Tried to
players are gonna
schedule
love it.
something that weekend. And
And yeah, are you guys done though? Are you practicing after relays?
I don't know if we're allowed to. I think we probably should just
Let the boys let the boys be done.
like end so early, into April. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm still learning, kind of.
All right, so
I'd never heard of Drake relays, and now it's every day I hear about it. So I'm excited.
All right,
He probably knows about the Penn relays, though, doesn't he?
probably does. Be better.
No, maybe
They
not.
compete with the Drake relays. They're always
Yeah,
like a big battle for
they're
which
like
one's better.
just down the street from Pittsburgh to Philly.
Sort
I
of.
mean, kind of like 6 hours or so.
I mean, should we hit him with the last one? The prediction or not yet? Do you have anything else, Ben?
I mean, like I feel like we could just grill you like all
Yeah,
day.
come on.
But at the same time, like some of the questions maybe are just a little too pokey.
I feel like I can deflect.
Yeah. What else you got?
You don't have anything right now?
How have I done so far?
You're doing good.
Yeah,
You're not. You
okay.
haven't dodged any questions. We had somebody yesterday dodging questions left and right. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. That's
Carlito.
right. Yeah. So we had all the high school coaches yesterday, or not all, 6 of different high school coaches promoting the high school season, talking about that, the high school and how it all works. So what, okay. So here's one for you then. College soccer. We talked about this high school guys. What would change to make the college game better?
The rules, the subbing rules.
What would you like to see differently?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I try to be realistic. It's not professional sports. There's different levels within college soccer. I think like 3 subs or something is probably too restrictive, but I don't understand why you couldn't play that. If you get subbed off, you can't go back in, and it would just add them. You do that 12 times or whatever, but
Yeah, once you're off, you're off.
it's just soccer, like why should you be allowed to come off? There's just literally no thought behind subbing, in my opinion.
I hate that rule.
Yeah.
It's also like it kills me because it like de-incentivizes players to be fit.
To be fit,
Like they're like, I only need to play
yeah.
15 minutes a game.
Okay, what's the fitness test going to be like?
Ooh, what is the fitness test?
the
Do you
eye
have like your own
nah,
thing?
I've always like kind of annoyingly said the eye test is ultimately the fitness test. Like
What's that one?
Okay, so in college soccer culture,
I don't know that one.
like the eyeball, like I can tell who's fit.
Is that really your test? Eye test?
I've done different things. I feel like, and I was actually like good at fitness, so it's not because I hated him myself. But I've just had too many experiences where I think guys spend the whole summer like cranking out beep tests, or maybe they're just kind of natural, or they can like just literally black out and run another 8 sprints, and it just doesn't translate to playing at all. And then they like want to weaponize kind of their success on the fitness test.
Oh yeah,
Or
it's like
vice versa.
I think I've passed the fitness test. Why can't I play?
Yeah, when we were at Loyola, we had this guy named Tucker. He played for Caw Valley, so somewhat he was for Kansas City.
He was a
guy.
PDL player.
He's
He's
a
good.
really good player. Scored a bunch of goals in formerly PDL that summer. And he'd been playing all summer, and he just like wasn't a fitness test guy, and like didn't run the fitness test well. So I don't know. I just
And he
have to
scored a bunch of goals.
I try not to put myself in a position where I'm like have to follow my own.
So you're not. So
policies.
there's not like, hey, Blake, if you can't run 3
Because
miles,
ultimately,
in,
if Blake can't run 3 miles, he's not gonna like perform well when we compete, So
Any strength requirements?
not specific.
I already like this guy. He's a soccer guy.
Yeah.
I hated all that stuff. Pull up, like
Me
how many
too.
pull-ups
And then
can you
just
do?
from my
How
own
many like?
experience, I do think there were too many summers where I was like, no, I can't go to play with you guys. I have to run, and it's just stupid. So
So I meant to ask this earlier. You're not like the largest person I've ever met. So what position did you play? Like you weren't you certainly weren't a center back.
no, I was a left back.
Are you left-footed?
Left-footed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We
We're-
love left
we love
backs
left
because we've
backs.
all like,
We're
you-
right-footed left backs, though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, always the worst player right on the
Yeah.
field like has to get.
Well, no, you're
We're
not
left
necessarily the
back.
worst player on the field. You're better than all the left-footed players, but you're the worst right-footed player.
Yeah, I was left-footed. Left back.
There you go.
Run and cross.
Okay. And was that always you were always a left back?
I was like less so in high school and club.
And then you were number 10.
Got to college, yeah. And then got to college. We played a 3-5-2. I was like,
Oh, you're the wing back.
all day wing back, and then eventually we kind of modernize things.
And Duquesne was sorry.
I played one summer in a 3-5-2, and like it was me and Luke Freeberg. Like we definitely were not wingers. Like he is, but like
You played left back in a 3-5-2?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you basically had 5 defenders.
Well, if you tell the guy in front of you to get back, you do. So what ideal scenario? It's probably not going to happen this year. What system is Drake playing? Because like we grew up 4-4-2 kind of. I don't know if you guys did down south growing up.
You just said
that was like
2.
No, but 4-4-2 was our kind
We were
of.
kind of in that like 3-5-2 is the old school, and then 4-4-2 is the more modern way that people.
So 3-5-2 with a sweeper is what you're talking about. Okay. So it's really a stopper sweeper, like could be a 4-4-2.
I'm not like committed. I don't know. I guess
You're not the guy that says no matter what we play a 4-3-2-1 all day, every day.
I'll
it doesn't matter.
Set the team up differently.
Depends on the personnel.
Like if the other team's going to play 2 forwards up front, like we're probably going to play a 3 in the back.
So you're doing scouting on the who's doing that?
Yeah, that was the stuff I wanted to ask about, like scouting and film and all that fun stuff.
I mean, are you sending the assistant to Peoria, Illinois to watch Bradley play?
You're not allowed to do that?
Nah, it's great.
Not anymore, or because you used to?
Oh, you definitely
been around for like 7 or 8 years.
Because I remember like we would be playing a game on a Tuesday night, and we like 3 of our staff members would go, and then somebody got I'm driving up to New York City today to watch Columbia or whoever. And
I think the rationale was
it's crazy to do that.
The beast, Ohio State could send an assistant on a plane, whereas Drake, we have 2 full-time coaches, and we're not going to fly anyone anywhere. So it supposedly levels the playing field. Plus, there's just so much video out there now.
So are you guys trading video, or you just have to go find video?
You like in Y Scout, it's just like everything's in there.
That seems like an amazing invention.
Y Scout. Y Scout's amazing.
So how many hours are you putting into the opposition, like research before you play? And is it like the Friday, Sunday games make it more challenging?
Well, so is that the schedule? Friday, Sunday?
No,
is that
it's more like Wednesday, Sunday now.
Okay.
So like let's talk about that. Like what's it look like a typical week in the fall if you play? It's you've just gotten done with your game on Sunday. Maybe it's a day off Monday. Like how does the week look going into your next 2 games?
I mean, I haven't thought that far out in terms of like how we'll structure the days off, things like that.
But so like typically what you would do
for a 3 months down, 4 months down the road.
No, I'm just saying like typically like no, I'm just saying like typically when you've coached, like if you've got 2 games in a week, and let's not even say that. Like let's just say you play on Wednesday and it's Monday. Like what's the day before game like how in depth are you going into like, hey, this is how we're going to play? Or is it more about like, hey, this is how we play? I've
worked for coaches that are more of like day before game, like good vibes, no pressure,
sure.
Like don't add anxiety.
And then you play for somebody like Coach Noonan, who's like, all right, we're going to have an hour film session. And then we're going to like walk through the training, everybody's roles. And there's going to be a piece of paper and you got to memorize what you're supposed to do on this set piece and that set piece. And you're marking number 7 on corner kicks, but on, free kicks, like you're in the wall. And then,
I probably err more on that side of things and try to split the difference in that. Like everybody learns differently. Guys don't memorize things well. I want them to have like functional retention of.
So instead, important. Like if you're the center midfielder, you're marking someone, figure it out.
No, it's gotta be real specific.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. So then instead you're like, hey, I'm whatever. I mark number 2 period or number 7
or whatever we're going to execute. I want every guy to understand exactly what they're supposed to do when we don't have the ball and we have the ball, and how we transition between our shapes.
I mean, it blows my mind that like that's because you have them every day.
I know.
So you can have like you can be that detailed with them.
Yeah.
It blows my mind when teams aren't that detailed, and like I couldn't believe like when I got to college and like that was the detail. I was like, wait, wow, this is amazing. And then you go and play like a game on Sunday now as an adult, and you're like, wait, who's this other team? Like, how does this guy play? What do you think they do? Like,
I think it's on me to like lay it out there for the guys. And even if the opponent doesn't set up in the way that we think they're going to set up, it's much easier to recognize they're set up differently if you had a clear idea of like how you thought they'd set up, know? So I'll do all the watching. I'm not going to put a ton of video in front of the team of an opponent. But I think it's really important to like understand the opponent, their system, because back to your initial point, like we're not going to use the same system every game. I see the system as just kind of like starting positions. So the size of the field, how the opponent sets up, all that stuff should kind of impact what system you want to use.
we used to get scouting reports that would be like, here's their typical starting 11, and Blake is the left back and he's right-footed. So if you do this or that, like that would be good. Like, are you going to that level of detail?
No, because I don't think players think that way, like in the moment. Like instead of video, I like to use like still shots. Because I just think that can like really show like spaces when you're building out against the other team.
So you'd be like, hey Blake, like during their build up, this is what they put this guy here.
Like
you
most
normally
teams
might
play
want to
with
be
one center forward.
Sure.
But from there, like how does that center forward operate? Does he like just stand between the two center backs? So the center back should be ready to step in a lot during the game, or some teams will like rotate pressure out of midfield. So in that moment, we should find the 6, so like, okay, here's their structure, but then here kind of like here's how it functions a little bit. If that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah. I'm just trying to get a grasp as like, if I'm a player, like what are the things you're telling me to do?
I just want it to be like very functional, very to the point, not an overload of information. So like for some players, some information is very relevant and pertinent, and for some guys it's not.
Well, yeah, you're going from like a different type of student athlete too, from Chicago to Des Moines.
They don't know anything.
They
about
don't
soccer,
care.
Yeah. So
they're just academics. All right, Steve, I think it's time for the prediction
What's the
question.
prediction here in the fall? We don't care about the spring, but you can't like.
So what was the record? What was the record last year though?
6-9.
Okay, he's got that memorized.
15 goals scored.
Woof.
12 of them departed, 3 returning.
Okay, yikes. So how many more games than 6 are you going to win? Because you can't. You got to do more than that.
Schedule.
Are you
so
going to?
We don't have the Missouri Valley schedule yet. They've changed our league around. Loyola's out.
Yeah. So what's that? That's a weird thing too. Like, what's that look like for you guys?
Belmont come in this year?
Belmont's in, and UIC, which is actually pretty good.
Oh, that is okay. That is good.
So there's now
7.
7. Okay, so you're back like NCAA tournament.
You have to have 6. So
Okay.
we never lost that.
Okay.
But with Loyola leaving, like we're always kind of right on the border of having enough teams. But now with UIC being added, I actually think it's like pretty good men's soccer league. If especially if we can get Drake going, you'd have Missouri State. UIC has been really successful. Belmont was good last year. Drake. So
Bradley still is like every once in a while will.
It's still a nice place to play.
Yeah, like unbelievable.
Yeah.
They still have cheerleaders.
What?
Last time I went out there, they did. Yeah.
Jesus, we're missing out.
All right, so let's not let him beat around this question here.
No,
so just say you play 15 games.
Okay.
Well,
so
no, you're gonna play
last
16.
year.
You're gonna play 16.
16.
Yeah, we currently we'll play 16 or 17 games. We won't play 15. I think they only ended up with 15 because they had like 2 COVID cancellations.
That's right.
We'll do better. I'll take the over.
Okay.
That's
There you go.
That's something.
All right. I said this like half jokingly, but maybe like a little bit serious to one of our older guys. Like, I think we're gonna go 8-4-4, and we're gonna win. Would you need 3? However many. They haven't structured the conference tournament yet, but we're gonna go all shootouts through it to get to the NCAA tournament, and we're gonna win a shootout in the first round of the tournament. So ultimately,
so you guys training shootouts then?
8, 5, and 8.
Detail.
And we'll get to the second round of the tournament.
Okay, I do like that. And are you guys going to be like practicing penalties
all year?
After Sunday, you better be.
Yeah, jeez, you saw that. Don't let your goalie take the last one. Gosh, 8-4-4. That's doable though.
Yeah, it might be ambitious, but like
no, that's good. Well, yeah, if you said anything else, I think we would have been mad. Can you talk about any players that you think are like going to be contributors? Is there anybody you're excited about?
Surprise, maybe.
Anybody that you showed up, you're like, oh, wow. We
mentioned Joffre's name. Like, Joffre hasn't played a ton to date. He scored 1 college goal, but he has
that's one. That's a third of the goals.
But he can do it. He can like be an effective center forward. This guy named Lewis Ewell, who's a transfer. He was on the team last year from Marquette. I think he can do more.
Is his brother Jackson of the national team?
No.
Okay.
No, it's spelled differently.
That would be.
I know that name. Let's see. of guys that like, there's a kid named McLean who dealt with injury in the fall, has never played for Drake yet, but I think he will like be a very solid contributor.
Where's he from?
He is from Kansas City.
Okay, great.
And then we're getting after it recruiting wise. So
very good.
Committed a guy from my high school in Atlanta.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's random.
Big shoes to fill.
Nah, he's better than I am.
But yeah, but you're getting kids from Atlanta though. Like,
got a kid from Atlanta visiting
legit.
tomorrow. Who else have we added? Defensive center mid who transferred from Fort Hays State.
What's a recruiting visit like these days? Like, what are you highlighting at the Drake campus to show people what's going on? And like, also, I mean, this is unrelated, I guess, but maybe not. How cool is the stuff that's going on in university? Like, you've got all that new development happening. The old like varsity theater, and then the used to be Ghazali's, which you wouldn't know, but little Greek spot that they're going to turn into something. It looks like campus is going to be really hopping pretty soon. And that new stadium.
Pretty familiar with campus at the moment. We haven't talked about this yet, but I'm currently living in Ross Hall.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
no, you're
my
not.
family's in Chicago.
So you're just like checking, staying in your car to get in the dorm.
No, it's a key.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah. I think my only request was no roommate, no community bathroom, and that they didn't give me either of those things. So I'm in Ross Hall.
What's the RA think of that? Are there still RAs around?
RAs, no.
He is the RA.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's actually it's the dorm that COVID positive students are utilizing for their quarantine.
So you wear your mask when you walk through the halls.
It's outdoor entry, so I actually feel very secure coming through now.
That's great.
But yeah, day on campus, I don't know. It's pretty casual. Like
where you're taking them to lunch, like what, like taking them to the calf.
I don't. Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah,
to be
I mean it
honest.
is.
Like, let's go to the cafeteria. So we go to the cafeteria. I like Mars. It's my favorite coffee spot around there.
Nice.
I actually love Fernando's.
Yes,
burritos.
That's a great spot. Have you been to Doco yet?
Oh yeah,
Doco's solid.
What about the Indian place down there in Forest?
Have you been to Lazaza?
Gone that far. Drake Diner, I think, is a cool spot.
Go to Lazaza.
Yeah, you gotta be careful how far down you go.
But no, go to Lazaza. It's good. And if you like Indian food,
Nice.
It's like magic.
Okay. We're gonna go to Eatery A. With the
good happy hour there
from Atlanta. Recruiting this mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try to like walk, enjoy campus. It's a pretty small school, like pretty small, not
pretty and small.
Yeah, pretty and
small.
Small.
They're staying with they still stay with players, right? I'm assuming, or not really anymore.
That's a little just COVID. Like for 2.5 years that stopped. So I think the expectation for like staying with the guys and doing all that is not quite the same as.
Will that ever get back to that?
Because that's like a huge sell. Like I just know that for me, it was like every time I met the guys I was going to maybe play with, it was like, ooh, or like, these guys rock. Like, and that makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, as a coach, it's way less stressful, because they're not like staying with the players on a Friday or
whatever. When you don't have to worry about them like getting them up for their flight.
Don't mind our current setup, but
getting them for a flight. There's bigger issues I think that they're worrying about.
Like they got to see campus. They have to get to know the coaches, get to know the players. I try and keep it like pretty casual.
Cool.
Just walk and talk a lot. And
so it's going to be a bit easier here in the next couple of weeks with the weather turning. And
so you're going to try and how many kids are going to come in?
Don't have a set number, but we have 5 guys committed since I started. And
that's great.
We probably need to add 3 to 5 more.
Yeah.
When can you talk about those kids?
Oh, I can talk about them right
now. Are they
any
Iowa guys?
No.
Okay.
Transfer from Marquette, who I knew from when I was at Loyola. Kid from Atlanta that went to my high school. Missouri high school player of the year from Rockhurst High School.
Okay. Yeah. Kansas City guy.
Defensive center mid from Fort Hays. And knock on wood, I guess number 5 is the guy that's coming tomorrow. Just very good attacking player.
Let's break some news.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so I mean, I don't know if I have anything else. I was going to ask him if he'd give us a 5-a-side team, but I don't know if that would really do anything for us. I know. I'm just saying it would have been fun.
Yeah, so one of the things we like to do because of the mini pitch is futsal is like a 5-a-side with guys you played with, but
well, who's
we won't know any.
I was going to say, can you tell us your current Drake 5-a-side team? That might be a little harsh though.
Yeah.
Would you be in your Drake 5-a-side team? That's the question. Have you
not currently.
laced them up and played with the boys?
No, I just will like drive balls into games and stuff like that, but haven't actually played with them yet.
At some point, right?
Yeah, and I feel like you just need to be, you just time that part. Some days you're like feeling it when you're 36 and some days you're not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just key that I step out there when I know I'm feeling it
And everybody's
in
happy
the
with
right
you.
environment, play for like 40 minutes and just never play again. It's my
So then they can, so then like next year, like new guys will be like, oh, like, can you even play? And they'll be like, the one time, man, he was so good.
Yes. Yep.
You could ping the ball.
Exactly that.
Perfect. Well, hopefully you'll get out to join us with the old guys
Wednesday
sometime.
mornings.
Yeah, you should do that. I don't know if Blake has any more as the Drake
It's
Bulldog here, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I know Blake does too.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to hassle him forever for that.
No, we really do appreciate it. And we're looking forward to how things go, and we'll be following you.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Pat.
Thanks, guys.
Steve's great interview. You must be excited. I would be excited if I was a true Bulldog.
Yeah, we laughed that you're kind of like just like a
I'm all but a Bulldog. Yeah, I mean, because Ted and Jane are Bulldogs. Park's a Bulldog. I'm more or less.
Yeah, no, it was that was a cool, fun chat. It gives a little bit of optimism to some of the alums. I think, at least I'll speak on their behalf as just one of hundreds, but it was cool. I'm excited now. He's saying all the right things, and I mean, no reason not to believe everything. So it was cool, and definitely looking forward to the fall. And he sounds like he's in it for the long haul to fix everything and get the program back on the up and up.
Well, that's the thing. I think the track record that he has shows that he could be a really good fit, and I think you guys are right to be optimistic. So let's just make sure that we continue to follow the squad. We've obviously put in the program notes the spring schedule for the boys there. So they've played against Hastings. They won. They won 2-1 against former Bulldog Cole Poppin, who is heading up the Hastings squad. All the best to him, obviously. But great to know that the Drake boys got their first win. And then what we got? William Penn, Creighton at home, away at UNO in Omaha, and then home against the Vikings of Grandview, which we might have to check that one out.
The Des Moines Derby.
Yeah. Yes. I'm in. Because we also are still waiting to get that exclusive on the Grandview head coach, aren't we? We've heard that Klopp turned the job down, and then so did Bielsa. That's what I heard.
Yeah, they as of the recording this, there still has not been an announcement there, but no, that's Pat was generous. He's kind of in limbo right now, traveling back and forth, trying to sort out the family situation. So for him to give us some time was super generous. So we are we're very highly appreciative of that.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Steves. All the best to the Bulldogs this spring. And Pat, good luck on the recruiting trail. We look forward to supporting you in the future here. Also, you will see this is our second take on our recordings here, right, Steves? And as a result, it's a totally different look. The only way you're going to find out is if you've been on the YouTube, checking us out there, right, Steves?
That's right. So YouTube, kick it forward, subscribe, like, comment. That's how our sponsors smile. You can follow us on Twitter, KIF_soccer. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, KIF Soccer. High school programs, parents, kids, slide into the DMs, send us your play of the week, goals, saves, tackles, assists, crafty footwork. Is that what you kind of described it?
Nifty. I think I said nifty footwork. Eye-catching. So the eye-catching phase.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, stay tuned. We're pumping into the high school season, but thanks again, Pat, and roof, go Dogs.